Welcome back to Three Shots and a Dot, and here's what's coming up in today's episode.
I think Quinny, I don't know what the thought process, or maybe he's been given instruction just to go hard in the first six. But I think, even if it was instruction from management, he's a senior enough player now to know, look, this is not that type of wicket. It's never been the entire tournament.
But Shamsi makes the problem worse, right? Because now you're getting a real dud, a liability in the field, as well as someone that really can't bat.
We're harping on Markram's captaincy, and yes, it's been good, but his batting's been terrible. I mean, that's 16 runs in 3 innings now.
Can we bring in Rickleton for Hendricks and Kutsia for Bartman, or not?
Yeah, the other thing is, did you guys see how the Super 8s work? It's ridiculous. Yeah, so it's not on merit. It's not on tournament merit. It's on preceded rankings.
Okay, it's a business, right? We know this. But once you put viewership numbers over the integrity of the sport, the people that actually watch cricket for cricket are going to stop watching. So that did not go to plan then. We almost lost that game. South Africa playing a bit of a nonsense today. Keshav Mirage saving the day at the end, but not in perfect fashion. 2 full tosses in that last over that could have easily seen us get our first loss. Now, Kov, I'm going to come to you first. What did you make of that?
Yeah, that was way too close for comfort. I think everything was all over the place. The saving grace was that we eventually got over the line. Job done. That puts us into the Super 8s. Apart from that, there's not much positives to take. Maybe Klaasen and Muller stabilizing the innings in the middle there. But it can't continue in the Super 8s. The top order need to come to the party. They've just been dreadful. On the bowling front, I think we did well. I mean, our pace bowlers, they got the job done. But I think they were trying too much. I don't think they really stuck to their plans. Way too many full balls. Mm-hmm. Like you said, Keshav in that last over, we could have easily lost that game. But at the end of the day, the job's done. We've got our win. We go into the Super 8s, but we really need to improve our performances.
Okay, I'm going to come to you, Kums, next. And what did you make of that?
I remember when we looked back at the Sri Lanka and South Africa match, I thought Sri Lanka batting first actually works in South Africa's favor, because when you play on a pitch like this, you don't know what to do. And after 10 overs, if you're 60 for 4, you can really come unstuck trying to go for 150 when it's actually a 120 or 130 pitch. And you could see that before down in the power play. But Muller and Klaasen dug deep quite nicely there. But we all knew it wasn't a 150, 160, 180 pitch. But 130 could have been a winning score. I would have liked to see them up around 130, 140. I think they were capable of doing that with a little more brains in the beginning, a little more thought process in the batting. But yeah, nevertheless, they made just under 120, and which was touch and go. But I think we were never out of that game, we being South Africa, because we've touched on it in the previous episodes that the bowling lineup that South Africa has is amazing. And I know they didn't come and display their best performance today, but the plans were clear. I like Nokia going short, pace on, and then trying to take the pace off. But, when Nokia goes pace off, it's like still 135. So yeah. But yeah, got lucky. Absolutely got lucky. You could say got lucky that Keshav bowled 2 full tosses, and how's that catch on the boundary? Killer, right? Second last ball, the Mahmudullah, that could have been 6. Even the ball before, you could argue, could have also wasn't really hit that well. But still. And
there's some sketchy umpire calls as well. There were some sketchy umpire calls.
Sketchy umpire calls, and also 2 was it back-to-back 6s from Klaasen earlier in the game. So all I'm trying to say is it was a game that could have been decided by 1 ball. If Klaasen mistimed that 1-6 and got caught, game over. If Mahmudullah just played that better, or if Markram didn't time his jump properly on the boundary, could have been a different game. But touch and go.
Litton Dust took the catch.
Litton Dust took the catch. Yeah, he dropped. Who was it? Was it Muller?
Muller.
Straight after the timeout.
Yeah,
10.1.
difficult,
Yeah.
difficult chance there. Difficult chance there. Thick edge came off the inside of his thigh, and then also missed a
Yeah.
stopping chance possibly in that whole kerfuffle. Now I'm going to come to Dvesh, the last of our thoughts in terms of this game today.
I think we've spoken about it, the batting especially. I mean,
Mm.
the top order failing again. It was something that I think we worried about after the first game, playing on those wickets that the top order might not get enough time in the middle, might go too hard, too early, and end up, being in trouble very early on. Same issue again today. I think Reza got a good one. That's a good ball to get up first up. And then I think Quinny, I don't know. I don't know what the thought process, or maybe he's been given instructions just to go hard in the first six. But I think, even if it was instruction from management, he's a senior enough player now to know, look, this is not that type of wicket. It's never been the entire tournament, and probably need to use a bit more discretion there. Probably knock it around because he did get away quite quickly today, and he just decided he's going to keep going. And I think he could have given himself a bit more time and make sure that we weren't in trouble very early on. Markram's dismissal again, going too hard at the ball. I think he could have, he was a big booming drive and one that snuck through the gate. And Stubbs, forcing off the back foot on a wicket that's just not there for good stroke play. But it's good recovery from Miller and Klaassen. I think it showed. Those are the two most destructive informed batsmen in the world at the moment, and they couldn't. When it came to the back end, they couldn't force the pace at all, and they struggled. So good recovery from them, and then at the ball, we did well. I think, like Kums mentioned, Nokia, back of a length, a bit shorter, full tilt, very difficult in those kind of wickets. Um, I think towards the end was great captaincy of Markram. There was a point where you could have probably gone Keshav a bit earlier to bowl his fourth over, where I think the Bangladeshi team could have targeted him in his final over with Mahmudullah still in there. But they decided, to hold him back for the last over, give him as many runs to play with as possible. Bowl out Bartman, bowl out Rabada and Nokia, and just take it down to the wire. And I think chasing more than 14 in the last over, we saw how difficult it is to force the pace, was probably the best way to go about it. He did get a bit lucky in the last two balls, but it's those tight moments that give the team a bit of a lift, where you're sort of down and out, and you're able to play badly and still win. I think that's a good sign for the Proteas.
But I have a question on that note. It was good captaincy, I agree, from Markram, but do you think South Africa are missing a trick by just bowling 5 bowlers? He didn't have any other options. It came down to a matter of when am I going to bowl Keshav rather than do I have options?
I think we made the comment previously about Australia and England having bowlers that can also bat. South Africa playing 5 bowlers is a bit of a tricky one because, one could argue that only Marco can hold a bat. I know Rabada can hit a 6, but in India, realistically, right? Is the tail too long? Because I thought, shit, man, what next? If one of these guys get out, there's nothing to come. And when Keshav came, that last over from Bangladesh, felt like, oh, Keshav
No
picked this
ball.
up. But did he really? It's a slow wicket. Not really a recognized batsman, but in the test arena, maybe something different. He could defend the ball or hold up one end. But trying to make Keshav get 10 runs of the last over on a slow wicket, that's not going to happen. Flip it around and look at, maybe an English spinner, Adil Rashid or Liam Livingston. I think they're more capable of 10 runs of the last over in a situation like that.
Yeah, I think we probably didn't have. Yeah, maybe you're right, because we probably have bowler short. But who do you pick? Do we go with another seamer? Because it would have been the same thing. Because obviously Markram can bowl, right? So he was the other alternative in that side, and he's bowling to 2 right-handers, ball turning in, they're hitting with the spin. So I think Keshav was probably your best option. Left arm offie, turning it away from the right-handers. That's probably your best option, unless you drop one of your seamers and pick Shamsi. But I think that was probably our best lineup in terms of the bowling. that we could choose. Let's.
But Shamsi makes the problem worse, right? Because now you're getting
Yeah.
a real dud, a liability in the field, as well as someone that really can't bat.
Yeah, look, I think the batting, there's we don't. There's not much we can do there. I think that's a lineup we're going to have to pick 5 bowlers.
But I think that's where the problem lies. Because if we had 20 runs extra, then we won't be having this conversation about the bowlers. I think we're harping on Markram's captaincy, and yes, it's been good, but his batting's been terrible. I mean, that's 16 runs in 3 innings now, whereas he's supposed to be the anchor. I think it was Steve Smith that was speaking about it the other day, where he was like, every team needs to have an anchor, and he was actually shitting on the Australian team because he felt that they don't have an anchor. Now, Markram's supposed to be our anchor, and he's got
I think
scores of
Steve Smith is
12,
just
0,
saying
and
that
4.
because
I,
he wants to get in the
yeah,
side.
for
He wants
himself.
to be an anchor in that side. That's
No,
what.
no, I think I can't remember who was sharing the commentary box with him, but they made the exact same joke to him on
Yeah,
air.
I think it was
So
Finchy, and he said, "Yeah, Manus Labusrachni would have been a good option."
yeah. Yeah, there's something like that, yeah.
uh,
But I
yeah,
mean,
no,
yeah, so it's I mean, we can't ignore that. So him and Riza, they've been terrible. I mean, Quinny, like we said, he's had starts, but the other two, it's been terrible.
very circumspect from both him and Riza, and it's almost like we have a non-existent top order now. For the first couple of games, that very potent middle order, we included Markram in that story because we know on his day, and it's not even on his day to be fair. When he's going and he's not in crap form like he is in now, pretty solid. He'll hold the innings for you, and he's capable of going both ways, smacking the ball. But I think just going back to the point of the issue of do we bring someone else in, we kind of missed a trick, and it's been a South African problem for a while not having a pace bowling all rounder.
Mm.
Marco Janssen was a big solution to that problem, but it looks like more often than not you're going to need two because we're now using Marco Janssen as an alternate bowler. To be fair, if we're going to play just 5 bowlers, then the only sixth option, as Devesh is saying, is Markham. He can bowl, he's decent, but in that situation, no options whatsoever because two right-handers bowling off spin, he's going to get pumped. 90% chance connect with one, he's going to get pumped. Now, I don't know if we could have gone a bit differently with the squad selection on a whole prior, because in all honesty, I don't think taking Shamsi was a good idea. Period. I, he's as you say, he's a massive liability. So, what are you going to get out of him in the entirety of the tournament? He's probably going to play once or twice at most on a ranked turner, and even then, if we're playing against a side like India or Pakistan or someone else that goes pretty well against spin, it's not going to be very, very effective. Could get pumped in 2 overs and then, yeah, you wasted a spot in the squad. Now, do we think that we should persist with this top order lineup, or is it actually time that we rejig things? Maybe Riza gets dropped. You can't drop Markram, obviously, because he's a captain and he's captaining decently. But do we drop Riza? Do we drop Quinton? Do we bring in Rickleton finally? Or shift things up and maybe make Markram open?
You probably have the freedom to do that now because we're in a position where you got 6 points of 3 games. So if you want to try something, you should do it now. The old thing, never change a winning combination when things are going well. But yeah, I think something can be tried now. Whether I'll try it, I'm not sure because in the back of my mind, I'm also thinking cricket is a game of form, and um, we haven't seen Markram play one of those killer innings as yet. We haven't really seen a class and killer innings. We haven't seen a Kuni special in the power play. So maybe it's a good thing. Maybe it's a good thing. In the most previous tournament, the 50 over World Cup, South Africa came out guns blazing in the beginning and died off in the end. Uh, Maybe it goes the other way around, and I think that's the best case scenario for South Africa.
I think you give Rickleton a chance. I think you either drop Quinny or Riza and give the gloves to Clausen and give Rickleton a go. I think you probably will have to give Nokia a rest. I think you'll bring in Kutsia.
Yeah.
Shamsi will have to have a run. I think you might as well. Against Nepal, there you got nothing to lose there. Um, yeah, I think those are the only changes I think I'll probably make. That's about it. Yeah.
Bartman over Kutsia? Or would you bring in Kutsia for Bartman? Because I think Kutsia gives you something on the bat.
Kutsia gives you something on the bat, but I think we've seen Kutsia's wicket taker, but he does disappear a bit.
The thing is, I'll just to cut you off there for a second. I actually think Gerald Coetzee would have been the perfect type of bowler for this New York pitch. He bowls it into the pitch. That's pretty much all his game. Not a big swinger of the ball. Not going to pitch it up and ask you questions. He's into the pitch repeatedly, 145 Ks, and with the variable bounce that we've seen repeatedly, I think he would have actually done well. Now we've gone Bartman first, and he's done well, so you can't exactly drop him. But for the Nepal game, maybe try a thing. Then you might end up with more questions than answers, and that might end up being
That's
a problem
exactly the point.
going into the Super 8. I'll come to you, Kuv.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'd actually counter that, and I'd say that we need to stick with the same team. And it's for two reasons. For one, at the start of the tournament, we said the team that's going to be successful, or the teams that are going to be successful, are going to be the ones that can adapt well to the different types of pitches. So you can almost grant India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, all of these other teams a little bit of grace. It is a difficult wicket. But South Africa's played on that 3 times now, and every single time it's been exactly the same. They haven't learned, they haven't adapted. So now you're going to go and change the team for a game that they should win, or even if they lose, we don't need to win the game. But for whatever reason, if the players that you bring in do well, what do you do then going into the Super 8s? Because the management will be confused, the players will be confused. I just don't think they have the powers of adaptability to do that. They've picked this team and they need to just roll with it. Now the players need to find some form, and the Nepal game might be the perfect game to give Riza, Quinny, and Markram a little bit of form. So I would actually vote for sticking to the same team.
Can we bring in Rickleton for Hendricks and Kutsia for Bartman, or not?
You can.
I think we can, because I think they made the statement already. By taking too few, they've basically said, we're doing the Springboks here.
Yeah.
We're taking all the merits. If you play, you're playing because you're supposed to be playing. This is not a Vernon Philander against New Zealand issue again. I think they will drop, though, if they need to. The problem is, he's not been bad. Like, he bowled too full for a period today, but has he been bad? I don't think so.
No.
I
I think Bartman's been
genuine.
killer.
Gerald will have his time in the sun. I mean, he's young.
I think they can play around with the bowling, but I don't think they should change the batting.
Leave
It's just
Riza.
going to confuse them.
Yeah.
Maybe okay, but the other point on that, now that I'm thinking about it, is that they only have one batting substitute, so it's not like going to be that much of a headache. If they have to swap around on the bowling, that's where we asking majority of the questions. On the batting, it's Quinton, Riza, Rickleton, 2 of the 3, and roll with it.
We banked hard on the batsman firing, and the thing is, we actually have a lot of Oaks that have done fairly well in the SA20, like Matthew Brietzka, young O's that have put the name Jordan Herman. They were there and thereabouts. Maybe they don't have the international experience. I give them that. But going not even with a traveling reserve and just saying, look, we come here with 8 batsmen in total, and 7 of them will play every game. It's a dangerous thing, and it might come to bite us. But yeah, so
yeah. The other thing is, did you guys see how the Super 8s work? It's ridiculous. Okay, so the way that it's grouped is that prior to the tournament, every group was seeded.
Okay.
So every group was seeded, and so it'd be A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, D1, D2, and that was allocated. So I think it was India, Pakistan, South Africa, Sri Lanka, Australia, England, West Indies, New Zealand. So those are the seeds, and then the other 3 teams would be A3, A4, A5. The groups are already set up. It's A1, B2, C1, D2 in one group, then A2, B1, C2, D1 in another group for Super 8s. So if any team in the bottom 3 seeded teams progress out of the group, they just go and take the place of that seeded team. So if, for example, if Pakistan is seeded A2 and India is A1, if Pakistan finish on top of the group, they won't be going in as the first team. They'll still be A2.
Oh wow.
So what happens now? So I was actually looking at it today. The whole England-Scotland saga and the whole what's the other team that's gonna make it? USA
Yes.
Pakistan thing.
Pakistan. Yeah.
In the Super 8, South Africa was gonna be seeded with Pakistan and England. So if Scotland and USA make it, then that group would then be South Africa, USA, Pakistan, South Africa, USA, Scotland, West Indies. So if
Easy.
West Indies make it out of the group,
That is a
so we
ridiculous
know
list.
for sure. Yeah, so it's not on merit. It's not on tournament merit. It's on preceded rankings.
No,
which is
but
ridiculous.
what you're also saying, that means South Africa has a flipping good chance to.
Yeah.
But-
No, it's good if
Yeah.
England and Pakistan don't make it, then that gives South Africa a better chance because then they play Scotland and USA in the Super 8s.
That is actually a madness. I know, like we were joking about, like fixing, and yeah, some people have favorable outcomes here in terms of the planning, and there's a massive discrepancy in the amount of time that the different teams are spending traveling. Like some teams are doing like 10,000 Ks over the course of their group stage fixtures. That's ridiculous. Lots of jet lag, whatever. But yeah, there's probably a bit more to the whole thing now, because looking at that, they've obviously planned to get good fixtures in the Super 8. They definitely didn't see this coming. USA out the blue, shocking everyone. But that one will still probably work out fine because they're getting to push the sport a bit more in the US. The Scotland England thing is going to throw a spanner in the works because you're going to end up with a Scotland USA fixture if that ends up being in the group. And then South Africa will probably get a walk in. US and then West Indies as well. Dimension Space tells a story. It's just like, okay.
I don't know how they can do that. Honestly, but that's obviously because of India. They've obviously planned it that way, so they know exactly when India's playing, where they're playing.
So are we watching a pre-made World Cup here? Are we watching a World Cup that someone decided on the outcome a couple months ago in a back room?
Yeah,
with
but
a
again, it
couple,
makes sense,
couple of
man.
lakh rupees.
It makes sense because you want prime time for India. Unfortunately, we said this in the past.
Yeah, okay, fair enough, right? You do. But you can't at the point that you start putting viewership numbers, okay, it's a business, right? We know this. But once you put viewership numbers over the integrity of the sport, the people that actually watch cricket for cricket are going to stop watching. It's the same thing we've been complaining about in the IPL. We're going back to the exact same thing. We have all lost some interest in the IPL compared to, I would even say, 3 seasons ago. We're all like, okay, cool. Everyone supported a different team here. Punjab, I don't know why Kuf supports him to this day. I will never understand that. You were the Hyderabad and Dvesh with his Whistle Podu, and we watched the games. Now it's like, we know what's going to happen. Dhoni's going to come.
T20 World
20,
Cup. I mean, it's based on entertainment.
Yeah, it is. It is.
You're
But
hosting it in the USA. I mean, come on.
WWE, smack it down. That's what we're doing now.
No, but
Basically what it's become.
I think another weird thing was how weird is it to hear commentary that is in non-Commonwealth English? Because I mean, whether it's the Aussies, the Kiwis, the South Africans, the English, or the Indians speaking English, it's tomato.
Yeah.
It's tomato, and it's the
The
pavement,
stadium
not the sidewalk.
If you listen to the stadium announcers, they're freaking hilarious.
It's hilarious. It is hilarious. But people are following it. I'll give that to them. There's quite a few people that are trying there. Now, Afghanistan, New Zealand, Kuv, I think you're really onto something. Yeah, Afghanistan played like absolute madness. It wasn't an upset. The better team won, hands down. Afghanistan outplayed New Zealand. Sorry to any Kiwi that might be watching this, but they looked washed. Kane Williamson's wicket, it was catching practice. He literally went, hey, boys in the slip, boom, easy catch. And Rashid and the boys were on fire. I know you said all the spinners will come in. Nabi came in, and yeah, what did you make of it?
Yeah, no, I was over the moon. I didn't expect how do you pronounce his name? Faisal Faruqi
Faisal
to
Farouk,
be bowling.
yeah.
Faisal Faruqi. Yeah, I didn't expect him to be bowling that well with a new ball. But like we anticipated, the spinners they come in and they get the job done. I mean, you haven't heard Mujib yet, you haven't heard Noor yet. They're still to come.
Mm.
They're still going to have their moments in the tournament. And the openers, I mean, they're batting as well as anybody. Um, and even
Yeah.
Azmat, he's still to shine a bit. So there's still some to come from Afghanistan.
Combs mentioned multiple times in this episode and the previous one that England and Australia have depth, but Afghanistan have a ridiculous amount of players that are not specialists. They are just very good at doing everything. Like Azmat is a good one that you mentioned there. He's primarily a batsman, but I haven't seen someone like him anywhere else in world cricket at the moment. He swings the ball a ton. Saw it in the IPL for
Mm.
Gujarat Titans, and he could easily be in that side as an opening bowler. He comes in at 4 and he can do things with the bat. And it's like, yeah. I mean, Rashid Khan comes in right at the end. And on his day, yeah, with those, I don't know what you call those shots because they're not helicopters, they're not short arm jabs, it's Rashid specials. Tonk, 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 and somehow he's on 50 of 20. Yeah, so that game,
But I think
I don't know.
that's also a thing that I've been going on and on about. That this is a different form of cricket. This is T20 cricket. You need
Mm.
players that can do both. And if you run through the Afghanistan side, look at I'm looking at the scorecard. Azmat came in at number 3, Nabi at 4, Rashid at 5. Then Karim Jannat, Gulabdin Naib, and then Najibullah Zadran coming right at the end. Uh, what did he face? One ball as a finisher. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you have the luxury of bringing Nabi, Azmat, and Rashid Khan before someone who's your proper killer finisher, Najibullah.
Mm. It's
So
exactly what we said. It's the power of adaptability. They can adapt to the
Mm,
situation.
mm,
exactly,
mm.
and you've got more than 5 bowlers in the side, and arguably a lot more that can bat because I've even seen Mujib. Mujib didn't play this match, but I've even seen Mujib bat.
Just on Ku's point there of adaptability, they have a lot of players suited to either conditions. Because we've mentioned the spin, right? But between Naveen ul Haq and Fazalak Faruqi, with Azmat coming in as first change, they have good pace bowlers as well. In the past, we've
Mm.
seen when Afghanistan first came into the scene, they came in with a pretty shoddy pace attacker. If I remember, there was a guy named Shapul Zadran with his long hair that bowled some pace, but it was just pace.
Hmm.
130 and not much to it. These folks are pretty good.
No,
Adaptability definitely
Mm.
on side.
Fazal Faruqi and Nabil Ullah are both. I think we've seen them in the world stage now.
Yeah,
They, uh, often when you get the minnows coming into a tournament, you see names that you haven't seen before. But
yeah.
we're all familiar with Fazal Faruqi and Naveen Ullah because we see them being paid the big bucks to play all around the world.
The next one for New Zealand now is West Indies, and obviously a must win for them because things are not looking that great in that group for them. I know we
Nah, it's done.
picked a few. You think it's done?
It's done. They're not catching Afghanistan. West Indies have won all their games. How are they going to get in? I don't see it. They've got to win all of their games by big margins.
Exactly. That
Don't see
net run
that.
rate out of the minus 4.2 or whatever it is. That's hard to
Mm.
claw your way back from there. I think, yeah, Group C is probably done. Afghanistan, West Indies, most likely.
When we spoke about New Zealand in the past, we said they're always thereabouts. Somehow they big tournaments, they perform. You never see them as, yeah, there's a lot of quality, but they turn up. And that game seemed to show us that, yeah, New Zealand, as you guys are saying, looks like they've gone home already. Now, I think England, Australia, what comes from there? Because England are in a similar situation, albeit a bit better, going through. They've got two easier games coming up. Scotland and England. In that game, it was washed out, but Scotland won 100 for no loss after 10. England are maybe a little bit lucky they didn't lose there and they got a point. That point might see them go through to the Super 8. Do we think that group is a problem? Do you think England are going to go through, and what you make of England's performance against Australia.
So England, Australia, Group B. I think it was a proper batting performance from the Aussies. Everyone contributed. Just looking at the lineup, you got contributions all the way down. Something that the South African team could do with. But look, England, I think are in real trouble. You mentioned they're probably in a better spot than New Zealand, like you mentioned, but it's still going to be tough. Like you said, that game against Scotland, they got lucky with the rain. Scotland flying in the first 10. It's going to be tough. I think Group B, I would say Aussies definitely through. They look good. I'm going to go Scotland to follow. I'm going to go Scotland to follow.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I agree, because I also read an interview where it was one of the Scottish guys. I think it was the opening batsman. So he gave an interview saying at one of the drinks breaks, they said that they're going to put the foot down and go for it. They were going to try and win in the least amount of overs as possible, because they are very, very aware of their net run rate and they know that it's going to come down to that. So I think they've done well. I mean, they chased Namibia's total in 13 overs. England are going to have to play well in both of their remaining games. I know it's against minnows, but they can't afford for the game to be closer than 3 overs or 50 runs.
And one of those games is Namibia, who I think on a day they can give you a bit of trouble. There's a fair bit of quality in there. They're not. It's unlikely that England will lose that game, but that could be the one that defines the outcome of the group.
Slightly off topic, there's jokes going around. If you play well for the Scottish team or the Irish team, you'll get called up to the English side. But yeah, I mean, I'd be Scotland today rather than England.
Yeah.
100%.
The other thing I found quite interesting in the England and Australia game is how much of emphasis was put on the short boundary. So there was a huge disparity. It was about 10 meters. But it was like the players were consciously aware of it, which is good. But like we're saying, it's a new game, modern T20. If you're going to hit a 6, in my head, I might be naive, but a 6 in my head is 70 meters plus. So they put so much of emphasis on the short boundary, and the batsmen were basically just batting for it. And the batting lineups dictated that. They always try to maintain a left-hand, right-hand combination as far as possible, and those kind of things. And I think too much of emphasis was placed on that. And maybe it adds another dimension to the games moving forward if we're going to see more grounds with that 10-meter plus. But I just found it quite surprising that so much of emphasis was put on it.
And the most disappointing thing about what you're saying is that if I look at all 11 batsmen in that English side, number 1 right to number 11, they could all clear that 70-meter boundary or even an 80-meter boundary. I've seen Jofra Archer and Mark Wood do it.
Because I think we know Warner and Head got off to a flyer, and that touches on what we said last week, that if Head goes 70% of the time, if his knocks go off, he's going to have 40 of 20. So that's exactly what happened. But in that entire partnership, only 1 6 was hit towards a long boundary. That tells you all you need to know. It was more evident in the English innings because you could see they were doing it. But at the start of the innings, when Australia were going hard, it probably wasn't that easy to spot. But if you go back and look at it, then you can see both teams were just targeting the short boundary, which I found very strange. I understand it, but in today's game, the amount of emphasis that was put on it just surprised me.
So you mentioned the England-Australia game. Then now the India-Pakistan game was also quite interesting. And Bumrah, jeez, man, the guy is by far, in my opinion, by far the best pace bowler in the world at the moment. Man. Ridiculous. And that moment Rizwan wicket, match defining. He doesn't get that wicket, Pakistan win that game. I think India were definitely not great to the bat. Now the pitch is that pitch. We've played it 3 times now, the Proteas that is. And I don't think Rohit said pre-match that they know they're going to have to adapt quickly and read the pitch as best as they can. The point there, though, is read the pitch, and I don't think you really can do much there. Now, the problem with all of that batting performance was the one person that did do well. Rishabh Pant, and he's going to keep Sancho off the team. I think if we're actually going to go ahead and put a a leaderboard on the side now, and it'll be our prediction results. But maybe we should have a separate part just for Kuv, because everything he seems to call at the moment, he's going pretty well. he told us.
Oh
Told
yeah,
the three of
call
us
punt.
about Rishabh Pant, yeah. And he said, I'm doubling down. Pant's gonna be the man, yeah. Poor Sanju, man. Like Sanju, most of our calls are going wrong. Now, when we called it, Kuv and I said India would win. Divesh and Saru went with Pakistan. I don't think you guys would have been too pleased. I know you wanted India to lose more than thinking they actually will. Both of you said you hope that
I
they
don't think
suffer
I
there.
wanted them to lose per se. The biggest thing for me was, especially for these kids that are getting into cricket now, watching T20 cricket. When someone makes 120, don't turn your TV off. If that happened in the IPL, if someone made 200, you turn your TV off because you think, 200, they can easily chase that down here. So it was nice to see that a game was still made out of it. Pakistan, I mean, if you're chasing a runner ball in a T20 game, I'm not going to say it's a given. The pitch was tough, it was tricky. Bumrah did bowl well, but there's better ways to, go about getting that. So yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed. I thought Pakistan's bowling would have been better than India's. They showed that by restricting India. But yeah, I think they just didn't come to the party in the batting department.
I agree. I think when it got down to it, what is it? 21 of the last three or something they needed, or 21 of 21 at some stage.
Hmm.
They just threw it away at the end. They definitely should have won that game. In the field as well. I mean, when it comes to tight games like that, every little run counts. Every wide that you bowl, it all matters. And I think Pakistan, even from the first game, we can see they're very sloppy in the field. A lot of overthrows, a lot of extra runs for nothing, shying at the stumps when the batsman is already past the wicket, and then no one's backing up, and it goes down to the boundary for one more. I mean, those kind of things, just letting them down. They've got massive quality. Shine Shah, Freedy, you've got Mohammad Amir bowling well as well. They've got a proper
Yeah,
side.
bowling really well.
They've got a proper side, and they're just letting themselves down with stupid cricket at the end of the day. That first game, they should never have lost that. Mohammad Amir should have conceded that many in his super over. He shouldn't have got to the super over in the first place. But it is what it is. I think they're gonna look back at the tournament. They're gonna say, "Look, we probably could have played better, but they definitely could have fielded better. They could be a bit more professional in the way they went about things in the field. They would have saved 15, 20, 30 runs. And in a small, well, in a tournament like this where the totals have been quite tiny and runs have been hard to come by, those kind of things make a big difference."
I think since we're going with the little prediction points table now, we're gonna predict one more thing, and we'll end off here. We're gonna go with the Super Eight. Give me your eight from the totality of the tournament. Now you're gonna get two from each group, of course, and yeah, I'll start with cool.
So I'm gonna go India, USA.
Yeah.
Then I'm gonna go Australia, Scotland, West Indies, Afghanistan, South Africa, Bangladesh.
Okay, cool. Some good calls there. We've seen Afghanistan, yeah, as we said, as we discussed just enough. Kums?
India, USA, tier Group A. Group
Yeah.
B, I think also pretty clear cut. Scotland, Australia. Group C, listen carefully, right? just hear me out here, right? If Afghanistan beats West Indies, which can happen because they're on top of the game, then New Zealand
Yeah.
are back in with a chance. So it can be New Zealand, Afghanistan. We're just taking West Indies as a given. But I think if New Zealand
See,
wakes up,
that's your gamblers mentality coming through. You're gonna double down on your Super 8, so your semi-final prediction is true.
no, and I'd love Afghanistan to go through. Go in with New Zealand, and even New Zealand fall out in the Super 8s. That's fine. But it can't be this easy. There has to be another story here. And I think if New Zealand really pumped Papua New Guinea and Uganda, then all they need to do is beat West Indies, and Afghanistan beat West Indies, and I think they're back in it. I can see West Indies throwing away the opportunity to pump teams, um, or throwing a game away against Afghanistan, for that matter. Anyway, then coming to the next group, I think I'd like to see South Africa and Netherlands, but given the pitches and the conditions, it's probably going to be Bangladesh because they put up a good fight against South Africa today, and I think that side looks much more mature and much better than they were in the past 5 years.
Okay.
It's my turn.
Yes, it is.
Oh dear, it's going to be the same as Cove, but I think that's boring. I need to change it up. I'll go with Group A. I think it's locked in India, USA. Group B, I really want Scotland to go through. I really do, but I'm going to give England a go.
I'm just gonna highlight to you where you're talking to me from, eh? You might be sent back home.
Yeah, but that's why I'm going Australia and England. Group C, I think Sarah was right. I think there is a chance that New Zealand will get through, but West Indies being at home, you got to back the West Indies. Afghanistan, obviously. So Group C, Afghanistan, West Indies, and D, South Africa, Bangladesh. So for me, the only outside bet was England sneaking in over Scotland.
I just have a question for Coombs there. In your scenario, does that mean Afghanistan, West Indies, New Zealand all end on the same number of points?
Yeah.
And then do you think New Zealand are going to be able to claw that neutral rate back?
Yeah, because they've got two. I mean, if you're coming with the experience that New Zealand have, they've got two games that they can really capitalize, Uganda and Papua New Guinea. Then what I'm saying is West Indies is West Indies. They can come on the day and go for gold and get bowled out for 120, and New Zealand can chase it in 15 overs or even just win the game. But I'm banking on New Zealand coming out guns blazing. They've got nothing to lose now against Uganda and Papua New Guinea, like guns blazing. Get those games in less than 10 overs, both games. Then it becomes interesting.
So I share a bit of that, but I think it'll actually come down to that Afghanistan West Indies game in that group. Now, Group A, I'll go India USA as well. Group B, I'm gonna say Scotland as well, man. You know what? Let's just be bold here. So Scotland, Australia. Group C, I think after everything that we've said, I actually do think that these Oaks might have a chance. New Zealand might still be in with a shot because I think Afghanistan will actually beat West Indies. Based on what I've seen in the short spurt. 2 games, cool. It's only 2 games. But I think that the West Indies, they struggled with off-pace deliveries and dealing with not a lot to work with off the pitch. So even against watching a lot of them play against South Africa pre the actual World Cup now, I think they're going to have a little bit of trouble with that particular bowling lineup from Afghanistan. If Afghanistan beat them, they're either going to beat them very narrowly or it's going to be an absolute shocker like we saw against New Zealand. Because as Kums said now, West Indies often come out and go for gold, go wild. And if they do that against New Zealand and against Afghanistan, they might stink themselves. Obviously, they're going to beat Uganda. They're going to pump them, 99% chance. Probably do even better than Afghanistan against Uganda. But against Afghanistan, New Zealand, they might come up short. So I'm going to say Afghanistan, New Zealand to go through in that group. And then from the South African group, Bangladesh have been good, played quite well. Beat Sri Lanka. Now they lost to us very narrowly. But I think Netherlands will beat them in that game. And I think Netherlands will go through with South Africa. So we're going to have, by my prediction, Scotland, USA, and Netherlands in the Super 8, along with Afghanistan. But we're not going to count them as a winner. They're a big team now. Deservedly big team. I've all got our predictions there, and we'll keep track of how this goes going forward. When we reconvene here, it's going to be the Super 8. So closing thoughts for the group stages?
Yeah, so like we said before the tournament, we knew it was going to be low-scoring games, but I really didn't think it was going to be this drastic. Consistently sub-120 scores being defended. Batsmen who we thought were in good touch all of a sudden struggling. Case in point, Tristan Stubbs. Like he's one of them who was firing on all cylinders, and what was he, like 13 of 28 in one of the games? And that's been a common theme for a lot of the teams. So, like you said, it's making for intriguing watching for the cricket lovers, not for the ones that are just looking for fours and sixes. So I think, yeah, so far so good. I'm enjoying the World Cup.
I think we'll get more fours and sixes coming up. Yeah, I'm also glad that we saw what we saw and we've seen what we're seeing. We'll get more fours and sixes, I think, as we move to the Caribbean pitches. But there too, it's a bit of a mixed bag. You're going to get some surfaces like in the England Australia game where it was a really good batting track. But on the same grounds, you'd get a different strip where someone like Keshav can come in and take, 4 wickets, give 20 runs or less, and really have a say in the game. So you're going to get a bit of that. You're not going to see many 200 chases as we previously predicted. But I think we'll get a bit more batting to close out the group stages, and then an exciting Super 8 after that.
Yeah, for me, it's I'm looking forward to Thursday. We've got West Indies and New Zealand and Bangladesh, Netherlands all on the same day. That's going to be exciting. I think groups B and C still up for grabs, still a lot to play for there. A and D, I think all of us pretty much. Well, I guess Bangladesh and Netherlands is a big one. I'm still undecided there, but a lot of stuff still to play for in the group stages, and looking forward to the rest of the tournament. I think what like Kuv said, it was really surprising how low the scores are, but equally, if not more exciting than 200 plays 200. I think it's you're always in the game. Both teams are always there, always fighting, and it's made for compelling watching. Maybe not the type of watching where you're doing cartwheels every 5 seconds when you see a six, but more sort of gripping and more. There's probably more tension watching the game. So exciting World Cup so far. I don't know what the ICC are going to say about the wickets in New York. I think it was maybe a bit too difficult to bat on, but you can only play what's in front of you, and I think the teams may have not have adapted as quick enough, and I think that's probably down to the IPL and normal T20 or T20 cricket, franchise cricket around the world, where they just set flat wickets and it's 50-meter, 60-meter boundaries where miss hits go for six and quick outfield. So something for the batsmen to adapt to, and finally the bowlers get something going in their favor. I think a lot of them will be quite happy with playing in New York. But once we go to the Caribbean, I think it's going to be. I don't know. Sorry, I don't know if we're going to see as many sixes. I think as we would expect. I think it's still going to be slow wickets. It's going to be tough to bat on. But I don't think we'll see scores of 100, and I'm sure we won't see scores of 200. It's probably in that middle ground between 130 and 160. Again, those are probably more exciting games when there's even contest between bat and ball. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, so I agree with a lot of the sentiments. Yeah, I think the games have been good watching, coming from the IPL and what we complained about quite a bit. Flat track bullies doing damage, smacking the ball to all parts, but it gets boring after a while. I was seeing interesting cricket again for the first time in quite some time. The IPL was quite long. There wasn't any big cricket, so to say, in and around that. Now, I think there will be a few more upsets in the latter parts of the group stages there. I'm going to stick with my predictions. I think that's going to happen. But when we come back for the next episode, we'll be discussing Super 8 predictions. Now, as far as I know, the next episode will be out a day after the first Super 8 game. There's, of course, quite a few games in there because for a change now, 2 groups of 4 and 3 games for each team. So quite a bit of action still to come. A lot of that, or if I'm not mistaken, all of that will take place in the West Indies. Different pitches, as we've just mentioned, and maybe a little bit more of a batting friendly time for the guys. But again, I also don't think we're going to see too many 200 scores. And also, again, better for the game, much better, tighter games, and I think more on the line. I would love to see you in the comments. Please pop in there with your opinions on everything that we've chatted about. Maybe make some predictions of your own if you'd like to. Now, if you did enjoy this episode, please drop us a like, hit the subscribe button. Of course, this is available as a video here on YouTube, but also in audio formats only across multiple platforms. Audible, Amazon, Apple, Spotify, you name it, you can find us there. And if you'd like to, on your way to work, pop us in your ears. It's Neargasm. Now, until the next one, don't forget to pour shots. Cheers.